Shalom and welcome. This week's Torah portion is Emor. We're now getting to the end of the book of Leviticus. And this Torah portion contains, among other things, a list of holidays, among them Rosh Hashanah. Even though it doesn't mention Rosh Hashanah by name, it does mention on the first day of the month of Tishrei, you will have a holy convocation, sounding of the horn, and it describes it in some detail. Well, just like the connections with Haftorah, sometimes the connections aren't exactly solid. Sometimes they're very tenuous. The connection with Rosh Hashanah from the Torah portion to this story is likewise very tenuous in that the story only involves the time frame around Rosh Hashanah. But it's an interesting story because it deals with miracles. You may ask, why should we even pay attention to a story that deals about miracles? We should all have faith. And having faith in someone who's able to perform miracles is a way of showing how we support that person, how we feel about God, that somebody can produce miracles. The Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, was one such person. Many things are reported about him that were miraculous. We don't know for sure if all of these things actually even happened. It's told in the stories that the Hasidim that were around him all the time took much of this on faith, where Rabbi Israel would say to a Hasid, reach in your pocket for a coin on Shabbos when they weren't even supposed to be carrying money. And the Hasid would simply reach into his pocket and, lo and behold, pull out a coin, one he didn't even know he was carrying. A miraculous thing. But the Chassid had faith in God and faith in the Baal Shem Tov, and so simply went looking for the coin, and there it was. So this story contains a number of miraculous events, some of which are fanciful, and some of which are not so fanciful. So here's the story. The Baal Shem Tov was once traveling with a few of his Hasidim, and they were up in the Carpathian Mountains, and it was getting close to Rosh Hashanah, and the Baal Shem Tov wanted to return to his hometown so he could spend Rosh Hashanah with all of his Hasidim. Unfortunately, the weather was bad, they were a distance away. This trip would take as much as 3 weeks because of the condition of the roads and the weather and the distance. They didn't have 3 weeks. They had barely a week. So the Baal Shem Tov, knowing how to get this done, used his knowledge to shorten the journey. He was able to have a week's journey take a day. And people who had been with him when he'd done this swore that this happened. So he did this, and the journey was only going to take 2 or 3 days, and they would arrive home in time for Rosh Hashanah. So they were traveling, and they came upon a small village, and it was getting close to Shabbat, the Shabbat right before Rosh Hashanah. And the Baal Shem Tov wished to spend the night, so he pulled up in front of an inn, and the innkeeper was told that Baal Shem Tov had arrived with some of his Hasidim. He went outside, and before the people could even get out of the wagon, he was there greeting the Baal Shem Tov, and Baal Shem Tov said, do you have room for me and my Hasidim to stay for the Shabbos. And the innkeeper, of course we do, not a problem. So the Baal Shem Tov then, do you have a minyan for the prayers? The innkeeper had to think for a minute. He mentally counted the Jews in the town and looked and counted the Baal Shem Tov and his Hasidim, and Rabbi, even counting you and your Hasidim, I only count 9. We're short 1 for a minyan. The Baal Shem Tov looked at it. We will have a minyan for the prayers. The innkeeper looked at him. So the Baal Shem Tov directed his wagon driver, Alexei, pull up to the front door of the inn. Now, the inn had an awning that came out from the building over the front door and had 2 pillars on the end, and you would drive under the awning to the front door, and people could get out and go into the inn. Well, this was fine, except that the Baal Shem Tov's wagon was rather high, and the topmost part of the wagon would not fit under this awning. So Alexei drove the horses, but then he pulled up short before the top of the wagon could hit. And the Baal Shem Tov was a little vexed at Alexei. Why did you stop? And Alexei simply then, okay, he drove the horses, and at that moment, the inn and the pillars extended and they raised up so that the Baal Shem Tov's wagon could fit underneath this awning. Now the innkeeper saw this and he was amazed, and he thought to himself, I'm childless, but I want children. Maybe the rabbi could give me a blessing so that I will have children. Look at what he has done. Such a holy man. So they get out and they go into the inn and everything is fine. And in the afternoon, Baal Shem Tov goes to the innkeeper and he says, call together the minyan. It's time for the afternoon prayer. And so the innkeeper calls everybody, and sure enough, there's only 9 people. Rabbi, there's only 9 of us. Don't worry, there'll be a minyan, says the Baal Shem Tov. But Rabbi, there's only 9, there's nobody left in the town. There will be a minyan. And as they're talking among themselves, the innkeeper remembers, oh, wait a second. There's a little tiny inn on the other side of the river, and there's a Jewish man who's there, but he's totally paralyzed. He can't even speak. He's laid there for years. His family feeds him and gives him water, but he can't get up and walk, he can't speak. Now, so he goes to the Baal Shem Tov and he explains about this man. He says, is this perhaps the man that you're thinking about to make up the 10th man for the minyan? Yes, that is him. Go and bring him. But Rabbi, and they explain how he's paralyzed, and he can't. Baal Shem Tov hands them his staff. He said, put my staff in his hand. He will get up and come for our minyan. So a few of the people go, and no matter what they do, this man can't even hold the staff. They come back, they tell the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov thinks for a minute, takes off his hat, gives it to them. Put my hat on his head, put my staff in his hand, he will get up and he will come for the minyan. So the people go back and they do as the Baal Shem Tov had instructed, and sure enough, the man gets up and walks back with them to make up the minyan. Not only that, but he stayed for all of the minions needed during the Sabbath. And he lived another 10 years before he passed on in good health. Now the innkeeper is sure that the Baal Shem Tov can help him with his being childless. So he goes to the Baal Shem Tov. He said, Rabbi, I have no children. Could you give me a blessing so that I might have children? The Baal Shem Tov blesses him, says, yes, you will have children. But Rabbi, should I divorce my wife? She's beyond childbearing age. What for? You will have children, says the Baal Shem Tov. Well, the man lived to be 60 years old. His wife passed away. Then he remarried. And his new wife gave birth to 2 sons. Now, nobody really remembers if these were twins or not, but the innkeeper had 2 sons. This is a story. Involves 3 different miracles, if you wish. But it shows what can happen when people have faith, not just in God, but in one another. We should have faith, and we should be willing to help people. One miracle shows having faith in God, that God can do these miraculous things. Another shows having faith that someone can be healed. And a third shows faith that what you need, what you desire, you can get in the future. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you very much. Shalom.